This is Skip. You're looking at the code for travel bookings, one of the Skip sample apps. To an iPhone developer, this should look pretty boring. It's standard modern iPhone code in Apple's standard Xcode IDE. This is the language, the APIs, and the tools any iPhone developer would expect. When we build the app, it launches in the iPhone simulator like normal. But what is definitely not expected is to see this standard iPhone code launching as an Android app as well. Skip takes iPhone source and translates it into the equivalent fully native Android app. It does this in real time on every build. So if we change the name of our home screen there and make our city list searchable, when we rebuild our iPhone code, we'll see those changes reflected in both apps. This is all happening locally and deterministically. Skip doesn't need to move your code to the cloud or prompt a large language model. If we take a closer look at these simulators, we can see that the apps aren't pixel identical. Skip uses the native UI toolkit on each platform for the best possible user experience. That means that iPhone users are seeing the exact code they wrote, running completely unaltered. And Android users are seeing the equivalent interface built from the fully native Android code that Skip outputs. Users get the native UIs they're used to, not the uncanny valley replicas you see from typical cross-platform solutions. We see a good example of this in the time pickers, which are fairly different across the two platforms. Now let's set a couple of favorites and visit the Favorites tab. Even as Skip uses native controls, it ensures feature parity. For example, Android doesn't have native drag and drop of list items, and its swipe to delete support is considered experimental. Skip implements these features on Android so that when developers use them in their iPhone code, they work as expected across the two platforms. But we also know that no cross-platform tool can cover every native API. Skip lets you easily integrate iPhone-specific and Android-specific calls right in line with no complicated bridging. So you're never forced to compromise. Here we've integrated Apple Maps on the iPhone and Google Maps on Android. Skip's unique native approach also gives it automatic access to platform capabilities like night mode and accessibility, which is often a weak spot of cross-platform frameworks. And with Skip, when the platform vendor updates their system components, your apps adopt the new styles and behaviors, because again, they're running as fully native apps. So that is Skip. One iOS codebase, two fully native apps. Delivered to the entire market with an iPhone-first development strategy that doesn't force you to compromise on developer or user experience.